products a season in advance and hope that you've guessed correctly. Hope that you're going to be right. If you're wrong, you're going to have a big sale. Solids are also very wasteful. They're wasteful because all the products that we make end up in landfill, and all of the packaging ends up in landfill. So those are some negative things about consumer society from the last 100 years. But to me, there's one really big problem, even bigger than all of those. And that's information. The information is frozen inside of those physical products. The information is in a physical form. You can't separate the information from the product. It's locked up, it's bound. Think about a book. If I purchase a book, I can read that book. If I want to give the book to you or share it with you, I can lend the book to you, but then I can't use it. It can only be used by one person at a time. That's a problem when information is locked up in physical form. But that's really the state of how all of our ideas were transmitted. That's the only way we could do it until fairly recently. The question in my mind is, well, could you ever separate that information out and share it more freely, separate it from the physical product and turn it into something else? That began to happen with the advent of broadband internet at the beginning of this century, because suddenly information was able to be delivered to your house through a pipeline, and information took on a different characteristic. It was no longer a physical thing. It was no longer a solid. Instead, it became liquid delivered through a pipe, and information became a utility, just like electricity or indoor plumbing. The information was available to you on demand. And we very quickly got into that habit, right? If you think back to your time before you had broadband in your house, we didn't use the internet the same way that we use it now, that we have broadband, always on, always available, and people have access to all kinds of information. And so that's the transition from information in physical form to information in a digital form. Information in digital form takes on the attributes of a liquid, and it becomes something like a utility, information utility. Now, there's a big implication here for the media business. The way the media industry got big in the 19th century and the 20th century is they industrialized media. If you wanted to be a publisher of content in the 1900s, you needed to invest millions of dollars in printing equipment and trucks to deliver newspapers and magazines around. And you had to spend billions of dollars on broadcasting infrastructure. So this meant that not everybody could be in the publishing business. Only people with access to a lot of money could publish. And that limited the number of ideas that we were able to share. So this is physical infrastructure. This is the physical infrastructure of the information business. We also made media that was physical. If you think back to all these discs that you had to buy when you bought software, just not so long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And all the packaging that wrapped around them. Such a waste. Now what happened with the digital network, with the broadband network in your home, we no longer needed the factory, we no longer needed the truck, we no longer needed the media to record on. All of that was done away with, and simply you got bits delivered over the electronic network to your home instantly. So here's a key point about the digital network. It changes the nature of the product. As goods become more information intensive, they lose the physical characteristic of products, and they take on the attributes of services. They begin to resemble a service. That's a really important point to take away. If you take away anything from this talk today, that's the one thing I want you to remember. As goods become more information intensive, they lose the physical characteristics of products, and they take on the characteristic of a service. So here's an example. Everyone knows this example. This is the iTunes Store. We call it a store, but it's not like any store you've ever shopped in before. What kind of store is this? It exists only on a screen. It's purely information on a screen. It can be changed instantaneously. And it's not just a store in the sense that it's the product or the storefront or the display. It's also the warehouse. It's also the inventory. It's also all of the material, the packaging and the marketing material. All of that delivered to you in the form of electronic bits instantaneously over the network. So that's a great change. That's a great shift. We've all kind of moved along to the iTunes Store gracefully, right? We take it for granted today. But that's a very big change from just a few years ago. Now, there's only one problem with this digital network, the broadband network. You have to be sitting in front of a computer to use it because it requires a connection, a broadband connection. So that was the one big flaw, and that's where mobile comes in. So mobile was a gigantic shift for us because it meant that you could move the media off of your computer and take it with you, and you could access it wherever you wanted to. It even means that people can cut the cord. They no longer need to be connected to a cable of some sort. They're able to move freely wherever they want. And that's a big change because it means now you can have the right information at the right time. So say, for example, you want to work on your car. You want to change a part on your automobile. You're not going to bring a computer out to your garage. That's ridiculous. No one will do that. But now you can do it with your mobile phone. You can download the video or you can download the information to your phone and watch it right there while you're fixing the car. It's a huge change. So those are the three stages of transition. First, we had information in the form of a physical product. Then information was turned into a digital service on the broadband network, and it began to take on the attributes of a liquid. It flowed like water. It flowed like indoor plumbing. And most recently, we moved over to information delivered over the wireless network as a vapor, freely available. It's information as atmosphere. If you find yourself in a situation now when you're traveling and you suddenly need access to some information, maybe a book or a map, one click on your phone and it downloads instantly to your phone and you have that available to you. And so as you can see, information is taking on the characteristics of a vapor. It moves very quickly, it's freely available, it's abundant, it's around you all the time. It is information as atmosphere. But it's not just media that's being vaporized. We're vaporizing hardware. Physical things are being turned into software. Think back to 2002, 2003. At that time, this BlackBerry pager was considered a smartphone. I know now it looks like an antique, but back then it was a pretty cool phone because it combined your telephone and your address book and your email and your pager all into one thing. And so we considered that a smartphone. And then as phones got more powerful and the processors got more powerful, we began to add more and more applications into them. We absorbed the clock and we absorbed the calculator. And gradually the phones, by the middle of the last decade, were powerful enough to replace your iPod. You could play MP3s on the phone. Some of the phones had an FM radio receiver built in. You didn't need to carry a radio with you. Some of the phones could play rudimentary games around 2004, 2005. And even some early mapping services. But it was in 2007 when Apple introduced the iPhone that we really saw a gigantic shift. The real modern version of a smartphone became available to us. And suddenly we no longer needed to carry recorders or cameras or video recorders with us. We didn't need to carry those things because the phone had absorbed all of those functions. We turned those products into software. We replaced the cameras. We replaced them with software. So in just a 10-year span, your smartphone has absorbed the capabilities of about 25 products. And today, the consumer electronics companies are suffering from this because they're seeing double-digit decreases in the sale of video cameras and other kinds of cameras. And so it's really starting to change those industries in a big way. So we vaporized the camera. We vaporized the video camera, turned it into software. And don't forget, Apple also introduced the modern version of an app store. Today, there are 1 million apps available to us. And every one of those apps represents something that used to be sold to us in the form of a physical product. We no longer need to buy that physical product. We no longer need to manufacture it. We no longer need to put it on a truck and drive it to a store. None of that has to happen. You can download it instantly to your phone. That's a gigantic transformation, and it's happening in every part of the world. This process will not stop. This will continue. This year, 2013, we're going to see the smartphone absorb your wallet, your identity card, your car keys, and your credit card. All of these capabilities will now be absorbed into the smartphone as well. And so this process of vaporization will continue. And don't forget, all of the services I'm talking about, they connect back to the cloud, and that too is a kind of vaporization, right? The cloud, we're vaporizing infrastructure. You've heard about all of these services. Foursquare, Airbnb, Netflix, Dropbox, and these other great services. Do you know they all have one thing in common? Even though they're very, very different businesses, they all have one thing in common. They're all riding on Amazon infrastructure. They're all using Amazon's cloud services. This is extraordinary. Amazon is powering so many of the cool new businesses. It means that you can launch a business much faster than previously because you don't need to invest a lot of money in infrastructure. Today, 1% of all traffic on the internet runs over Amazon's cloud every single day. 1/3 of all internet users touch the Amazon cloud through one of those services that I mentioned every day. And they're the 4th largest content distribution network in the world after Akamai, Limelight, and so on. That's a gigantic shift. So for entrepreneurs, for people here in Bogota and elsewhere in Colombia who want to start a new business, this vaporization is great. Because it means you can start a business with a lot less overhead and a lot less investment. You can start a business and use these tools, which are free or cheap. They're available to anybody in any part of the world. The mobile technology, you can take it for granted that half of the audience already has a smartphone, and very soon the rest of them will as well. There are new materials that are making smartphones better and faster. We're miniaturizing, so we're getting more and more capabilities into those smartphones. There's on-demand infrastructure like the Amazon Cloud I just mentioned. There are all kinds of free tools available for collaboration over long distance, for communication, new ways to talk to people. Every day there's a new video communication app or video collaboration app. You have social media marketing available, which means that you no longer need to invest huge amounts of money in marketing campaigns. All you need to do is learn how to connect with consumers and talk to them in the language they understand. You have crowdsourcing and crowdfunding available to you, which means you don't need to do all the work yourself. You can raise investment from your customers. You can have customers say, I'll purchase that product before it even exists. They're buying vapor before it even exists as a product. And they'll contribute labor, they'll contribute help with crowdsourcing. So people really want to contribute and help you. And of course, then you have all the open platforms and the open source software and the open standards. We've knocked out so much friction from the process of launching a business. This is the greatest time ever to be an entrepreneur. So my friend Andrew Hessel is a biohacker. He's one of the synthetic biologists that I mentioned earlier. And he said, Rob, the next biotech billionaire will start his company on a laptop computer in a Starbucks with a smartphone. It's just an incredible thought, right? An incredible thought. You'll be able to create a new business sitting there with your smartphone to communicate with people, and your laptop, maybe to write a spreadsheet or do some calculations, put together a PowerPoint, write some code. You can push the code out to your cloud infrastructure provider and publish it right there, and then go order another cafe latte. We have these things available to us now. We take for granted, but they're really part of this process of vaporization. You can have outsourced call support. I know that's a growing business opportunity here in Columbia. You can have a virtual office. You could have an office right now in Manhattan if you wish to have that. It's available to you. We're vaporizing the idea of a physical office. We're actually vaporizing the idea of a physical company. And now companies that consist of people all over the world who use these collaboration tools and video conferencing to talk to each other. And they don't even need to necessarily be employees. They can be contractors. And so you can create a virtual business overnight. So let's compare the physical world to the vaporized world. It's really quite extraordinary what's happened. You see, physical goods are scarce. As I mentioned earlier, if I'm using a physical product, you can't use it at the same time. It's hard to share those. Only one person can use it at a time. But in the vaporized world, in this mobile world, we can all participate. That's why things grow so fast. And because they can be shared, and they're fairly cheap, they grow very, very quickly. Where physical products, because they can only be used by one person at a time, and they consist of so much physical material, they're very expensive, and therefore they're very scarce. So one of the attributes of your mobile world, of the vaporized world, is that things grow very quickly. It's very, very fast, because things are very cheap. They're either free or they're almost free. So some of my clients today are TV companies, and they ask me to tell them about mobile technology, and they're very curious about the tablets. Tablets are growing very quickly. We sold about 117 million tablets last year, and we'll probably double that number this year. In most parts of the world, tablet ownership is doubling every year. And so the tablet is on track to replace the PC very quickly. If it doesn't happen this year, it will happen by the end of the year, that tablets will outsell PCs. So tablets are growing quickly, and TV companies want to understand them, because one thing people love to do with tablets is watch video on them. Mobile video grew 300% last year. The consumption of video on mobile devices grew 300%. So when I talk to television companies, I say to them, look, the tablet is not a TV. It's not. It's better than a TV. It's better, because a consumer has to go out to a store and make a decision. They have to make a purchase decision. And they look and they say, okay, I could buy a brand new flat screen, or I could buy a brand new tablet computer. They cost about the same amount of money. But for the consumer, it's a very easy decision. The tablet is so much better than that flat screen, because it's not just a television, it's also a game console, it's also a video camera, it's a way to play music, it's a way to share videos and show them to your friends. And that's not all, it's also a tool for creating content. It's a tool for you to generate new information and share it with people. And the tablet is a truly versatile multimedia device. It's versatile because it allows you to create multimedia content in every form. You can create text. You can compose all kinds of messages, text messages, photo messages, video messages. You can compose music on a tablet. I visited students in Hong Kong at the Polytechnic in Hong Kong, and they have these great big rooms where they used to do sound recording, and it's a great facility, hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. Nobody's using those recording studios anymore because all the students have iPads and they have the recording studio software on the tablet. We've vaporized the recording studio. And of course, with a tablet, you can also create and edit and share video as well. So this is a much better value proposition than purchasing a flat screen TV. If you're a person at home today, it's an easy decision to make. You're going to buy a tablet. No surprise, therefore, that the ownership of TV sets has dropped for the first time in history in the United States. Since the introduction of the television, this is the first time ever in history that the number of TV sets is actually going down. And that's not all. Pay television subscriptions are going down as well. They're starting to descend because consumers prefer this new device. So they're migrating to a new habit. And if you're in the marketing business, if you're in the advertising or media business, you need to be aware of this trend and you need to follow those consumers to these new platforms. All of the future growth will come from mobile devices. And the growth numbers are extraordinary. This year, in 2012, mobile data accounted for 15% of all internet traffic. But by the end of this year, 2013, mobile data will account for 30% of all internet traffic. It's doubling this year, and that trend will not stop. It'll continue to double and double and double. So this is a rapidly growing field. And as it grows, many people are worried that this is the end of TV. I don't think that's the case. I'm very excited about this future because I see that we're going to create new kinds of value. I believe that this mobile phone and this idea of vaporizing physical things has unlocked, opened up a new dimension of value for us. Let me explain what I mean. When I show this picture to TV company executives, they look at it and they say, well, I see 3 screens. There's a big screen, a small screen, and a very small screen. And they would like to see their TV programs on all of those screens. Fair enough. Yeah, and they're doing that. They're distributing video to those screens. But when somebody from the technology industry or a startup company looks at this picture, they see something different. They see something that TV people don't see. They see an invisible layer of software that unites all of these devices. A new platform for the creation of content. An invisible layer of software that allows me to browse and discover, download, and pay for content in an entirely new way using my mobile phone. I don't have to purchase content on my television. I can purchase it on my phone. And then I can use that invisible software to send it over to my TV set and watch it there. And I can create new playlists, and I can manage the media on my terms, the way I want to watch it. I can create my own playlist. I'm not subject to the programming of a TV company anymore. And I can use that invisible layer of software to talk to other people about it, to market the shows, to share it, to describe it and promote it. And so that's a whole new dimension of value that traditional TV people just don't see. But the startup people do, the technology people do. Now, of course, I don't want you to get the idea that my message is that every single thing in the world will be vaporized. That's certainly not the case. So not everything will be vaporized. Here's a good example I saw recently.
Huh? Emma? 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 Emma?
Okay, so not everything is going to be vaporized. I guarantee you there's still room in this universe for physical products. We're going to need some physical things. But once you start to look around, you're going to see opportunities to vaporize businesses. And for the people in the audience who are working on startup companies, and for the marketers in the audience who want a fresh new idea, who want to really refresh their approach to marketing, I urge you to consider this. Once you start looking for vaporization, you'll see it everywhere. Let me give you a few examples that I'm excited about. For instance, a lot of people think the smartphone is the future of mobile. Let me tell you, the smartphone is not the future of mobile. It's not the case. Over 20 years, we've seen the smartphone go from this gigantic size down to the small, very cool and very powerful phone that you have in your pocket today. The iPhone or maybe one of those Samsung Galaxy phones. Right? Those are like supercomputers in your pocket. And so some people think, well, that's it. We've perfected it. That's the end of the road. We won't need to innovate beyond that form factor. Nonsense. It's not true. The mobile phone is the next thing to get vaporized. Already we've seen Google introduce its glasses, right? They've shrunk the components down to the size of an eyeglasses. And so all the components of the smartphone will soon be wearable. It might be in the form of glasses. It might be in the form of a watch. We hear that many companies are developing wearable watches, smartphone watches, smart watches. Here's an example from Nokia. This is a bendable screen. We've seen manufacturers demonstrate bendable screens. In this prototype, you could actually wear this like a bracelet. You could wrap it around. You could wear it like an earring or something on your body. Wear it as jewelry, so you no longer need to carry an ugly-looking phone with you. And Microsoft has developed something they call SkinPut. This is an extraordinary concept. The computer has been miniaturized to a point where it's a pendant. You wear it like a necklace, and it contains a mobile phone, a microprocessor, a broadband connection, and a projector. You use voice command to talk to it, and when you want to make a phone call or when you want to write an email, you simply say, project that on my hand, I want to see the phone, and it'll give you the ability to use your hand as the device that you would project the UI onto your hand, and you'll dial your call from there, or you'll write your email from there, and it uses gesture tracking to watch what your hand is doing, and that's how you communicate to the computer. And so we've vaporized the phone. We've turned the phone into pure information, pure electric light. Whatever can be vaporized will be. This is what I want you to take away from this lesson today. Whatever part of your business can be turned into software that's downloaded to a phone will be. You may choose not to do that. You may choose to protect your old business. But I guarantee you that's an opportunity for someone else to come in then and disrupt your business. Because whatever can be turned into information will be. Already we have vaporized the book. You've seen many examples of that. E-books are now outselling hardbound books and paperback books combined on Amazon. The music business has already been vaporized. Great services like Spotify give you access to everything, but you don't need to own any physical media. Games have been vaporized. I cannot tell you how profound the shock to the traditional game industry the mobile games have become. They present such a tremendous shift from the past, and many of the traditional game companies can't make that transition. So the future belongs to companies like Rovio, the creators of Angry Birds, who have downloaded 1.7 billion copies of this game. 1.7 billion. They have about 250 million active users every single month. That's gigantic scale. And they just added a video feature, so they've now become one of the biggest distributors of video in mobile overnight. It's an incredible company. Maps have been vaporized. You know, there used to be a business of publishing maps. Now overnight, that's been turned into pure digital information. And one of the things you should know about vaporizing and new technology in general, people don't migrate to the new thing until it's better and cheaper than the old thing. And the new maps are. Because today, when you walk around a town, the new maps tell you where you are. They tell you the location that you're in. They give you extra information that the traditional maps could not give you. We're seeing something similar happen with boarding passes, airline tickets. These are in the process of being vaporized. As I travel around the world now, I see people using their smartphones. They download their boarding pass to their phone and they use the barcode. They scan the barcode to get onto the airplane. And these apps are actually great because if there's a delay in a connecting flight, you get notified before the flight attendants know it. You get the information before anyone else has it. So they're better than a paper ticket. So we won't make the jump to the new technology until we get something in our hands that's better and cheaper than what came before. But I think these new apps are doing that. So I believe TV is about to be vaporized. I don't mean that's the end of television. Of course not. TV is in great shape, and the TV companies are doing very, very well. But we're seeing a gigantic shift in the consumption behavior. In the US this year, 50 million households will have access to on-demand video over the internet. 50 million. That's half of the US households. They're going to have access to it. And it's a brand new service. It's a brand new habit of use where people get to decide what they watch, when they want to watch it, on whatever device they want to watch it. That is a fundamental challenge to the way the TV business works. That is going to transform the TV business in some very exciting ways. It's not just media. Medical devices are being vaporized. You probably know about things like Fitbit. This is a device that was introduced in 2007, and now there are all kinds of companies that are building a wearable computer that tracks your fitness and your health. It tells you how many steps you walked and how many stairs you climbed, and it helps you turn fitness